So our clients just bought this property for £37,000 and is set to make £7,600 per year. However, there are numerous horror stories of investors buying flats and apartments and 5 years later, then being worth a fraction of the price. So is investing in a flat something you should do or something you shouldn't do? So in this video, I'm going to reveal the pitfalls you need to be well aware of, actually the advantages when you can get it right, plus a simple system to help you have the best chance of success with this strategy and benefiting from the advantages, plus a few case studies to help solidify. But first, what is a flat and how does that differ from a house? Well, simply when you buy a house, you're effectively the freeholder and you own the whole property outright. However, when you buy a flat, there's a freeholder and there's a leaseholder. The freeholder is effectively selling units, i.e. flats within the block, and they usually sell them on a leasehold basis. That's usually between 125 years to 999 years. Now, because there's communal spaces in between, staircase, the hallway, and there's maintenance and management, they then charge typically a service fee as well as a ground rent as well. So here leads on to the pitfalls you need to be aware of before you invest in this strategy. So number one, high ground rent and service charges, where they then usually increasing every 3 to 5 years. We've even had in examples where we've seen service charges and ground rents increasing every year by inflation plus. And if your rents aren't keeping up with that inflation plus, then it's effectively a leaking ship. Number two is the timeliness and effectiveness of the property manager. There's going to be repairs and maintenance, and a part of the service fee is to go towards that. Now, if the property manager isn't proactive and it has a laissez-faire approach, well then those repairs and maintenance are just going to be building up, and there's going to be a heavy penalty down the line. We've even encountered a flat where it was within a block of 12 and the service charge was nearly £500 a month because there was so much repairs and maintenance the year before, because guess what? The manager wasn't taking care of all the work from previous years. So there was this hefty bill that needed to be paid. So it wasn't the property manager absorbing that, it was the leaseholders. The next one is tenant profile. Outside the capital, London, when it comes to apartments and flats, usually the tenant type are young professionals and students, and they're usually staying in the property from as little as 1 year, but usually up to 2 to maybe 3 years on average. Now, when we compare that to a property, we can have a tenant in there who is looking after a property and is staying there for up to 7, 12 years, if not more, and they're always continuing to pay the rent and agreeing to higher rents every year as well. Now, this leads me on to the biggest pitfall to be well aware of. New build, especially off-plan apartments. You've seen those high-rise blocks going up with fancy promotions. They look really nice and oftentimes sold with guaranteed rent of 3 to 5 years. And they sound really good from the outset. And I'll hold our hands up. We even used to sell a few of these properties back in the day. It's because the investor is the one that usually loses out. Let me share the reason why. So first, a lot of the times the guaranteed rent is already priced in. For example, student pods. So what's happening is the investor is actually paying upfront the guaranteed rent for it to then be paid over time to them. Yeah, nice, good investment. Second, aftermarket sales. Developers usually build based upon a 30% profit. So they're pricing that into the sell price. Now, when it comes to 5 years down the line, 7 years down the line, there's not many comparables of second-hand flats being sold at the same price that you purchased at. So a lot of investors, 5, 7 years down the line, they might have bought a student pod for, let's say, £70,000, and now the student pods are being sold for half that price. So let me share with you one of many of these flats that sell for a ridiculously lower price than the original purchase price. So take this flat. This block was built in 2017 and they were selling off plan at £122,565. So this kind of gives you a gauge. This is what it looks like on the inside. Pretty standard stock. Now, we'll show an example of a flat within the same block. This was 207, and 2 doors down, we see a comparable of it being sold significantly less. So that one, this flat also was sold at £122,565, and just over 6 years later, it's selling for less than half the price, £52,500. Now, I'm not here to say this strategy does not work, no. But if you're a new investor especially, or you've got a bit of experience, I just suggest being really strategic about even adopting this strategy, making sure you're well aware of the pitfalls and really guarding against it so that you can really take advantage of the right type of opportunities. So here's a checklist that we adopt with our clients so that they can guard against the pitfalls and really take advantage of the benefits. So number one, second-hand stock. So we're not securing off-market or new builds, but flats that are 10, 20 years old. And as a result, the price that an investor's purchased is now reflective of the true value, if not buying it for a bit of a discount as well. Number two is focusing on flats that have a reasonable and affordable service charge and ground rent, sometimes having none of those, and guarding against the small print where the service charge goes up every year by 5%, 10%. Guard against that, going for really affordable and low service charge and ground rents. And number three is location, going for areas where there's good infrastructure and employment. I've seen so many recently blocks of apartments being sold in areas at huge premium prices where there's nothing around it. There's nothing to maintain the type of tenants that you want in those properties, i.e. professionals or students. They're typically going to be tenanted and rented out by a tenant type that may not match your preference, that may not maintain payments nor maintain the quality of the property. And usually the rent that these tenants can actually afford to pay will be capped by local housing rates. So whilst the professional market may make, for example, $650, they're capped to only being able to pay $450. A real big difference. The next one is going after areas where there's good capital growth potential. There's investment in terms of infrastructure, there's jobs coming in, the government's plowing money into it, there's private sector investment. That bodes well because then it's close to employment hubs, it's close to areas where people want to reside. And number one, you're going to get strong tenant demand. You're also going to have strong buyer demand if you want to sell later on. And ultimately, you're going to be getting the potential benefit of capital appreciation down the line. And this is a bonus one, going after investments with a Tyneside lease. You might think, well, what's a Tyneside lease? Well, they differ to your typical lease. These properties are usually based in the northeast, and it's usually properties that have been converted into 2 flats, one on the ground floor and one on the upper floor. Now, the difference here is actually each leaseholder or flat owner actually has a freehold, but they actually own the freehold of the property below. So let's say you own the ground floor flat, you're the leasehold for that, you own the freehold of the flat above, and they respectively own the freehold of the flat below. Now, there's no service charge, there's no ground rent, and actually, we just consider it like you're buying a freehold property. So let me share with you an example of a Tyneside lease. So we secured this flat. It was a 2-bed flat. From the picture, you'll see that we had the ground floor, and then there was a top floor flat. This was a 2-bed, secured for £69,000, no ground rent, no service charges, a 999-year lease. There's only $5,000 to be invested, but the end value was $90,000. So for the client, they were going to make more than 14% return on investment. And let me share with you a case study of one of our clients that secured a 2-bed flat in a really good area at a really good price. So this is in Brandon, which is literally just outside Durham City Centre. We agreed a price for £37,000. There was comparables of between £55,000 to £80,000. The £55,000 were where they were tenanted, and £80,000 were where they were empty. Now, there was actually a tenant in place, so this was a turnkey investment. So the client was making income from day one, making £425 per month. And the market value that the rent's set to be increased to is 600 to 650 per month. So the yield at the moment is 13.8%, but it's set to make just shy of 20% at 19.5%. And this just shows you, look, it's 5 minutes from one of the major industrial parks, 9-minute drive to university, and literally a 21-minute drive to the hospital. And these are just some internals, really good condition, really solid investment, and that's what you can get when you do the blueprint and the system the right way. But getting access to these type of investments can be really hard to come by, especially when you're new. And on top of that, there's loads of potential cons out there from different providers. So in this video, I reveal a simple strategy that you can adopt so you get those golden egg opportunities.